Hello, good evening, and welcome to The Probe. Tonight, we'll delve into the future of Ghana's pension system, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, what we usually call SNIT. We are examining the state of contributions, reserves, and sustainability beyond 2036. Now, the International Labour Organization, ILO, has projected that SNIT's total reserve will suffer complete depletion by year 2036. In other words, SNIT will not be in a position to pay you and I if we retire in 2036 because there will be no money in its coffers. But the trouble is projected to even start way before year 2036. And so I have been joined in studio by Kofi J. He's a senior person with our research desk here at Joy News. He's going to break the data down for us so we can appreciate what is actually happening at SNIT. So, Kofi, what is the meat involved in this whole thing?
Well, Carlos, this is not the first time that this type of actuarial studies is being done for SNIT. And so this was done for the ILO for SNIT. The first time, or the last time they did one of this such actuarial studies was 2017. Now, when they did that actuarial study in 2017, they projected that by 2040, I think 2049 or 2046, SNIT's reserves were going to deplete or go to complete zero.
Okay.
Then the second one was done in 2021. This time around, the projection actually reduced the year from that 2040 something to now 2036. Now, if you look at that, it simply means that if you read the report and analyze the data in there, it tells you that currently SNIT is in a good position. But by 2029, what we are going to realize is that SNIT's contributions, investments, will not be enough to pay benefit. What it means is that they will begin to rely on their reserves, what they already have as the buffer.
Then that's from 2029.
That's from 2029.
Okay.
Then after this period, SNIT's buffer or reserve is going to run into zero by 2036 after they start relying on it by 2029. So you have on your screens there that SNIT reserves are going to deplete and it's going to go to zero by 2036. The last time they did this was beyond 2040 something. Now it's being brought down to 2036.
Yeah.
How scary is it? Let's look at the numbers. Let's go at the next slide that talks about, the indebtedness to SNIT, the total debt as at the time that they were doing these actuarial studies. They looked at a debt burden of 9.35, almost 9.4 billion Ghana cedis. Now, this was as of 2029. Now, this 9.4 billion, 2021.
21, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, out of this $9.4 billion, let's look at what was being attributed or given to government. Let's look at the next slide, and you see the magnitude of debt that government itself was holding in terms of late payment. That was around 6.9 billion Ghana cedis. That's more than 73% of the total indebtedness to SNIT. Now, this is a huge figure. What did the study find in terms of some of this late payment and how it's going to affect, the
sustainability
of SNIT? Let's look at that. And they say that, this is interesting, that per every late payment, SNIT loses 1.3% in terms of investment. There's 1.3% drop in investment return each year that there's late payment. So our money, that deductions are being made, whenever there's late payment on behalf, whether it's from government or from the private sector, SNIT is losing 1.3% in terms of investment returns. Now, what does it happen when government decides to do late payment or they are not paying the deduction ahead of time? According to the study, this puts a lot of pressure on the private sector. It means that now the money is supposed to come from two sources. We have the public and then the private. Now, the public one is supposed to be deducted by government and paid by government, but they are having to pay this money, late payment, all over the place. Now, when that happens, we know how they treat the public sector. They go after the public sector, you can't default, you need to pay. So because
you mean the private sector?
The private sector is available, what happens is that it puts a lot of pressure on the funds coming from the private sector. And ILO says government must solve this, make the payments ahead of time. Now, we're looking at the fiscal data provided by the Finance Ministry. This study was done 2020, published in 2024, gave us some interesting outlook in 2021. We wanted to know a very recent year like 2020, what happened? So what we saw was that if you look at compensation for employees in the 2022 budget, government budgeted more than 37 billion Ghana cedis to pay in terms of compensation for employees.
Okay.
That includes social contribution, I mean, gratuity, pensions, and all of that, social security, all of those things included. At the end of 2022, what we saw was that the provisional outturn, government has spent beyond that 37 billion that they projected. They have spent more than 39 billion. But if you go to the SNIT side or the social security side, the amount they budgeted fell short by close to 1 billion Ghana cedis.
And that is huge.
But the entire compensation of employee budget went up by 2 billion Ghana cedis. But what was supposed to go into pensions fell by 1 billion Ghana. Let's look at some of the recommendations that the ILO gave to SNIT. So first one is that SNIT needs to adopt a proper funding policy. The current policy that exists, ILO is saying that you do some sort of twist to it so that it becomes proper, and then the funding policy will be reliable and sustainable. We are also looking at allowances should be included in pension contributions. So we know that it's your base salary that we actually compute this, your contribution. But before you deduct my social security, please add my allowances so that, the package will be huge, and SNIT will also have the inflows that they need to make the investment. Then also, stop adjusting pensions according to salary. Instead, use inflation.
Exactly.
We saw the statement that SNIT issued after this report came out that, they keep on collecting, and then they are hoping that the labor force will increase, they will get more salary and all of those things. But ILO is saying that it's good when you do the adjustment to salary, but do it to inflation. We all know how inflation eats people's disposable income. And so if I'm contributing and currently I get 4,000 cedis in the next 4 or 5 years or 6 years, if you give me that same 4,000, my disposable income,
and inflation, exactly.
Then one key aspect is that we know that SNIT was relying on the local bonds markets to invest and get the returns. Now, as a result of the DDEP, that market has almost collapsed. So the key question is, how is SNIT investing the monies that they deduct from them? Are they going to T-bills? We know how T-bills short-term. The last time that they did it, we know that, the T-bill interest rate is coming down. There was some sort of, under subscription and all of that. So it's a very interesting conversation, and these are projections. And SNIT will answer some questions, and we'll see if sustainability is really there. So, but this is what the entire discussion is really talking about. That's the report and interesting data in there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kofi. Kofi is with our research desk, and he's been giving us details from that particular report, and that is what we're going to digest tonight on The Probe. We are live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125, and Joy FM, as well as myjoyonline.com, as well as all our social media platforms. We'll take a short break. We'll return and delve deeper into the conversation. Please stay. All right, welcome back to The Probe. We are looking at the future of pensions in Ghana, the state of contributions, reserves, and sustainability beyond 2036. I have been joined by Dr. Kobina Nyako-Otu. He is the Director of Research and Policy at the TUC, as well as Mashoud Abdullah, pensions expert. And in studio is Austin Game. He's a labor expert, and Senyo Ejabin is a labor consultant, and Samuel Erickson Abata, Vice Chairman, Employment, Social Welfare, and State Enterprises Committee of Parliament. But let me start from the studio. You are welcome to The Probe. This data we are seeing, is this the first time government owes SNIT to the tune of amount we are seeing? It is the first time since 1991.
I don't think so, but I think that it has widened, the gap has widened. That's why the working people and union leaders are unhappy and are raising concerns. I think that has been too severe. 7-8 months is something that is quite burdensome for them.
What could be the reason? Because we do know that public sector workers, their salaries and these payments are deducted at the end of the month. And so one would expect government to make these payments to SNIT. What could be the reason?
Yes, it's possible that salaries will be budgeted for, supposedly paid, deductions made, but they will not be remitted to the appropriate body, like SNIT, on time. And even in certain cases, even union dues are not being transferred to the unions. So it's not strange. We all know that these few days we've been told openly by government itself that they are suffering. There is a strangulation of our economy. And so obviously, if they are not transferring, that is the reason. But it's deeper than we think. And I think that as we go through these concerns, people will become aware, and we all have to come to terms with what should we do to have this matter resolved as quickly as possible. But I think that is quite nauseating. We should be worried. Working people should be worried. Employers who pay this money on behalf of their people should be troubled. And I am too, because I'm an employer myself.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So hold on for us. Let me go on to speak to Dr. Kobina Nyako also. You are from the TUC. You've done a lot of research in this area. How disturbing is this information, knowing that workers' monies are not coming to SNIT, and it means that their future is at stake? Okay, we seem not to have him in the, or on the line. But let me speak to Mashood Abdallah. Abdallah, are you on? Okay, Abdallah. So tell us, you have done a lot of study in this area. Tell us how worrying this situation is.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. First of all, I would want to commend the Joy News team for bringing up a subject that concerns the sustainability of a system that feeds nearly 250,000 pensioners and their dependents. And let's not forget, over 1.8 million workers are connected to the program. That tells you how strong such a structure is. Of course, this is not the first time actual valuation report actual valuation is conducted. One was conducted in 2011, and the opinion that was expressed was that everything was fine.
Okay.
Then in 2014, another actual valuation was conducted, but we realized that at that point, the changes that were made to the scheme as a result of reforms in 2008, 2010, it actually began to feel the impact of the reforms because contributions were reduced to the scheme and all that. So as a result, the actual opinion was the scheme was not sustainable into the future, at least within the projection period.
Okay.
And so they said the scheme reserves will be depleted in 2042. Another one was conducted in 2017. Again, the actual opinion was that the scheme was set to deplete by 2037. So it had come down by, what do they call it, by 5 years. Now we had another one conducted in 2020, and this time we are told the scheme is set to deplete by 2036. And it means only one thing. There's only one interpretation to this one. What it means is that given the demographic and economic environment that the scheme is going to operate, the scheme would not be able to pay benefits fully or on time by 2036 if nothing is done. Now, this picture that we have been given right now is as at 31st December 2020. Now, let's see what happened between 2021 and 2023. Of course, that is what is going to constitute the next actual valuation period. And I'm going to pick it one by one. I'm going to pick the variables one by one to give you a sense of how the next actual valuation is going to look like. We are being told that the scheme will be depleting, or the scheme reserves will be depleting by 2036. And it's all over the place. And, we see it to be something new. But the picture is more gloomy than the ILO report is actually painting. Oh. And as I said, I want to break it down. Okay. I want to give you a sense of how the next actual valuation is going to look like. Of course, we are expecting one that is going to comprise the period 2021 to 2023. So you are looking at transactions that occurred within the period. I'll begin with dependency ratio.
Okay.
Dependency ratio is basically looking at the number of workers who are contributing into the scheme to support one pensioner. Not long ago, we had 17 contributors, contributing into the system to support one pensioner. As we speak, the number has reduced to 7. Between the years 2021 and 2023, of course, we have all witnessed a very high rate of migration, people flying out of the country. We have had thousands of Ghanaians, productive labor force, flying out of the country. That is going to affect the dependency ratio. And this is going against a rising pensioner population. Okay. So definitely there is a declining dependency ratio. And we expect it to go down within the period 2021 to 2023. Mind you, I said 2021 to 2023 is what is going to constitute the next actual valuation period. Yeah. So I'm looking at what happened within that period and trying to give you a sense of what is going to happen in the next actual valuation. Okay. So that is the dependency ratio. Migration is going to feature prominently. Okay. If you look at the 2014-2017 actual value, it was migration was assumed to be 0. I'm not sure in the next actual valuation ILO is going to overlook migration. Migration is going to feature prominently. Now let's look at real returns on investments. Okay, but
before you go there, let me bring in Senor Jabin. He's also a pensions consultant. So we pick his initial thought on this as well. Senor, this brings into sharp focus the other Tier 2 and Tier 3 pension schemes. How can that come in to at least alleviate the suffering of the ordinary worker whilst NIT works at restoring its reserves?
Well, thank you very much. I think that this report generally shows the general state of pensions within the country. And indeed, I do not think that, well, we don't really have data on the Tier 2 and the Tier 3, especially regarding the contributions, the investment, and then the investment returns. Okay.
So which means we are focusing on the Tier 1 now. That's where the whole discussion is. Okay.
Yes, we're focusing on the Tier 1. And if you look at the entire report, I heard your initial comments about the fact that your colleague saying that the current state of the pension scheme is said to be okay, but the projections are what the problem is. And I'm happy our colleague Mashoud has told us that the projections for the next 3 years is a bit gloomy. For me, I look at, for example, in the report, the issue about the investment return. And the investment return was put at 12.2 when Treasury bill returns over the same period was 17.5. So it means that the returns we are getting is even below the normal Treasury bill rate. Now, this is extremely worrying. And we think that there has to be immediate steps to not necessarily reform, but to relook by the stakeholders, to relook at this issue. And I would even want to connect it to the issue of social systems and the protection of the aged. So we do not have any other social system that is protecting the aged. And it seems that it is only the pension scheme that is protecting the aged financially at this point. Okay. And
so you are looking at reform at this point in time because without a reform, you think that this will persist. But let me bring in the Vice Chairman of Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises Committee of Parliament to also join us in this conversation, Samuel Erickson Abaka. As a parliamentary committee, I want to find out from you, has the information that workers may not be paid what is due them in pensions by 2036 because NIT reserve is predicted to be depleted, has this information gotten to your committee, and how worried are you? What do you think should be done? Some are calling for reforms already. From where you sit, what is the way forward on this?
Thank you. As the vice chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises, taking the report on its face value, it is a worrisome issue. Unfortunately, this is a report that was made in 2020.
Okay.
December 2020. And from the audited account of SNIT for 2021, they made reference to this state of affairs. But from all indications, there are programs in place to ensure that they navigate around the problem. It is one of a caution.
Okay.
And the effect of what they were saying that you should be very, very cautious, else by 2036, you would have depleted your reserves and you cannot pay the pensions. Following from this is the findings that the total corrections made are inadequate compared with the payments, the benefits that are paid. SNIT has given us the assurance that they have, the reserves are not being meant for, they're not using the reserves to pay for the pensions. And that there's no way, since 1991, they have never defaulted the payment of the workers' contributions, the benefits as they fall due. So in a way, it is our contention that SNIT sets up, because the assurance given us are positive, that they are in charge, they are in full control, and that workers should relax.
Okay.
There's no cause for alarm.
All right, Samuel. But I will come back to you to look at, as a committee, what you think going forward should be the way, apart from or just relying on the assurance from SNIT that everything is okay. But let me come in studio to speak to Austin Game. He is an expert when it comes to labor issues. Tell us, we do know that there's a National Pensions Regulatory Authority. So if government is not doing what is right, one would expect that they would crack the whip. Have they been doing their oversight work well from where you sit? If they have, I believe we wouldn't be seeing what we see now.
To a large extent, yes. To be honest with you, I was part of the commission that wrote the pension scheme. And as far back 2005, 2006, when we got to a state, myself and one, Josephine Amoa of the Insurance Commission, were delegated to go and interview SNIT officials and that of the superannuation scheme of the University of the Universities. To be honest with you, we were scared, even at that time. So whatever is being said, there's no need to be very flowery about this matter, because it's about people's livelihood. And like the ILO rightly said, we are not even adjusting it by inflation, which is also very difficult. But having the long arm of government into the affairs of SNIT, the extent to which it is, must be curtailed. And it is up to the contributors who are actually the owners of the money. Government is not the owner of SNIT.
Okay.
The owner of SNIT are the contributors. And therefore, the appointing authorities, those who are managing SNIT, I don't see them doing anything extraordinary bad, but we must double up. We must think outside the box and be able to look at our investment portfolios and see the return on the investments. And those who are responsible in making these decisions. Government is so much, there is a chairman of the board, has members. The main contributors, when they deduct money from your pay, it's no longer your employer's money. It's your money that have been sent to SNIT in your name, not in your employer's name. Okay. And therefore, you are the owner of the money. And so together, including my money, we must ensure that we protect it. So the one who appoints the people, the one who go to borrow the money, at what rate and so forth and so on, and writing it off, I think we might have to make decisions.
So it means that we have to check government interference.
Organized labor must know that they have a responsibility to protect the interest of those who pay union dues to them. And therefore, they have an onerous duty to ensure that we do not just have 4 people, and they must look for people who have the capacity to make decisions and report on it, and who will be the Director General of SNIT should be of concern to us. It shouldn't be appointed by a president. I don't mean today, tomorrow, 1930, to come. It must be the owners of the money who must have a say.
But how do we change that now?
Well, at the moment, what we need to do is organize labor, who is the mouthpiece of the working people. In general, we must come together and get the MPRA, and that's why we created MPRA, the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, and give them authority. But they need to sit up themselves and bite and ensure that government, having deducted government as employer, in this case, not the partisan politics, but government as employer, if you deduct money from people's pay it. And if they don't pay, what penalty they will have to pay, what kind of interest, because the money is supposed to be invested by SNIT on behalf of their owners.
Okay.
And if they haven't sent the money and the money is delaying with them well over 7 months now, until we are raising red flags and so forth and so on, I think that it's very urgent now that the MPRA must sit up and ensure that they stop behaving as if they are an appendage of government in power.
Okay, so
MPRA is not an appendage.
Let's look at the situation where workers are really not happy with the situation. Is it likely to lead to some labor unrest, and would they be justified if they take such action?
It could be, but I am not a fan of that. I lead some of the most sensitive unions to negotiation table today, and therefore I have just last week told them we should go gingerly. Nobody should muddy the waters. Already Ghana is strangulated by this economic hardships already, and therefore we cannot take industrial actions because of this situation. What we need to do is to go and negotiate using the MPRA, go to the employer who is defaulting in payment and ensure that we negotiate what kind of payment plan they have, to pay the money, and also what kind of interest should be paid on it. We must use our people on the SNIT board now to have an emergency meeting and call upon them to go and stop meddling about people's money. It's very, very critical.
Beyond those steps you've proposed, what role can Parliament play in all of this to ensure that the worker gets what is due him or her?
Parliament is an oversight body that ensures that when complaints of this nature and data is in front of them, and I have just told you that as far back as 2005, when the commission was in full flight and we were preparing to have the pension scheme come into fruition the way it is now, we saw the danger flag at that time.
Okay.
And we briefed President Kufuor then about it. I was representing that on the commission. And so it's not an easy thing. And so I'm urging Parliament to be non-partisan in this matter, because it's people's destiny that is at stake. Okay.
All right. Austin Game, hold on for us. Let me go to Mashoud Abdallah. How much of this is down to poor supervision by the government as to how SNIT conducts its business and investment?
Yeah, so if you look at, what do you call it, the ability of the scheme to be, or the ability of the investment outcomes to be able to support the benefit payment function largely depends on the real returns on investments. If you look at 2021, SNIT posted a positive real returns on investments. Then if you look at 2022, 2023, inflation averaged 31.47 in 2022, and it averaged 40.28% in 2023. So clearly that tells you that there's a very big doubt with regards to what is going to happen in terms of real returns on investment for that period. Administrative cost. SNIT has spent so much within the period 2021 to 2023. We have increasing staff numbers at the Social Security Administration. Then, so much has been expended in the overrated seed program. So these two factors, among other factors, are going to account for, a lot as far as administrative cost is concerned within the period. Government indebtedness, as Kofi mentioned, total indebtedness to the trust at the end of 2021 was 9.6 billion, with government commanding about more than 73% of it. That is clearly worrying. So if you look at dependency ratio, you look at administrative costs, you look at investment performance, you look at government indebtedness. In the period 2021 to 2023, it tells us that the true state of the scheme as we speak today is even gloomier than what ILO is reporting. Because what ILO is reporting is as of December 2020. But if you look at transactions that occurred between 2021 and 2023, we might come down to, 2032. We have a parliamentary select committee.
And Austin agrees with you. Austin Game in studio agrees with you 100% on that.
Clear. So let me make this point. I'm happy, we have him in here. When you go to the US, when actual valuation report is issued, the leadership of the Social Security Administration appears before Congress, presents the situation, try to let the public understand the risks that are being confronted with, the depletion date in particular we mentioned. That is why Social Security is a very huge debate in the US. That is what we need to do here. Parliament has to lead the line for all the stakeholders, the worker unions, the trade union Congress, everybody, including the media. Parliament would have to lead the line here. And what was the main, recommendation in the actual valuation report? In 2014, we were told that, look, there is a need for it to increase the contribution rate to SNCC from the current 11%. In 2017, the same thing was repeated. In 2020, they have repeated it. And I am telling you that when the 2023 actual valuation report is out, we are going to have, a gloomier picture than we have
what we
right
see.
now. So Parliament needs to lead the line to salvage the situation for all workers in Ghana.
Okay, but the government itself seems like a major culprit in this when it doesn't promptly pay to SNCC a deduction from workers' salary for timely investment. You agree?
Yes, definitely. Government indebtedness actually inflicts the biggest pain on the long-term sustainability of the SNCC scheme. If you look at we are looking at billions of Ghana cedis being delayed, and it's clearly highlighted in the actual valuation report. It didn't begin today. It began in 2014, repeated and it's repeated in 2020. As we speak today, government is still owing a lot. I think we have gotten to a point where we have to go beyond politics. I've read a rejoinder that was issued by the Social Security Administration. And looking at the rejoinder, it's another demonstration that we put politics ahead of the future of the Ghanaian retiree. And so I keep saying that the biggest risk facing the Ghanaian retiree and the Social Security system is political risk. And I remember one of the
Okay, we seem to have lost him there due to internet connectivity. So let me go to Senor Jabin. You are a labor consultant, rather. So do you see this development eroding the trust of contributors, the fact that you are not sure if your monies or your pensions would be paid when you retire? Won't this erode the trust and people will start putting money under their beds? Hello, Senor.
You're on mute. Sorry. So I think that clearly information sharing to the owners of the scheme, which is the employee contributors, has not been forthcoming enough, and therefore their participation in the scheme has been limited. Indeed, if you are a contributor and you hear all of these reports and the gloominess of which you check against your future, you would be worried. And for some of us, we believe that the contributors must be brought properly into the picture to make decisions concerning their future and also to help regulate the fund. Clearly, the managers of the scheme and the funds have not done well at all. And it is not about politics. It is the figures that are showing. Reports are showing figures that indicate very, very, very worrying trends. And therefore, I think that employees and contributors must somehow be brought on board fully to be able to contribute to the regulation of the scheme.
Okay, so what would be the option for contributors, for instance, people who still have doubt SNIT can bounce back? Do they have any options at all where to put their money so when they retire they benefit something?
I think the whole thing is statutory, so it becomes very difficult for individuals to be able to decide what to do with their monies within the context of the SNIT pension scheme. So that is one of the unfortunate things, that you don't even have a choice to opt out. And so it means that the workers' representatives have to show a stronger stance in ensuring that the contributions are protected. That's right. And that is where I think that our proper approach should come from, where the representatives of the contributors should come out more clearly, should come out more forcefully, and make sure that the right things are done so that workers' contributions are protected.
All right, thank you. But hold on, let me come to Austin. So I'll put the same question to you. People are really worried. Are there any alternative arrangement for contributors?
Well, to be very honest with you, at the time of writing the pension scheme, we invited a host of people, including the Makola women. Okay. And for your information, and to the entire public, it was the Makola women who came and told us at the commission that they do not have confidence in SNIT and that they want us to introduce a new scheme. Hence the second tier, which is also statutory. That, if people don't know, that is the history behind it. And therefore, the investable funds that are with SNIT and the fund managers, they have no choice than to ensure that the word politics, I don't like the way we use it. Politics is about making prudent decisions on behalf of people. But when you are introducing partisan politics, that is where the problem lies. So let's do away with the partisan aspect of it. SNIT is not the property of a government. SNIT is the property of contributors who that vehicle have been put together to administer and ensure that they invest the funds that the returns will yield to the people. So the alternative is for prudency. And therefore, I agree with my colleagues who spoke that organized labor, which is the major mouthpiece of working people, must ensure. I am not looking for people holding red flags and shouting. That's not what I'm looking for. I lead some of the most sensitive people in that sector. But I want to say that we must go and negotiate with government as employer. That you have delayed in paying these monies to us. You have to pay now. This is the schedule, and this is the penalty you have to pay. This is how much it amounts to. This is the treasury bill interest rate that you have to pay, or negotiated interest that you have to pay, because this fund must succeed. If it fails, people are in trouble. And that's why ILO suggested that the adjustment should be made by inflation. But that would be too steep also for our country, knowing what it is.
Why so?
Of course, if inflation is gone to 54%, how can SNIT? SNIT will die in 5 minutes. You understand?
So you disagree with ILO's proposal?
I'm not for that. But we can negotiate an adjustable, because the money is ours. If SNIT collapses, it collapses on all of us, our head. Therefore, I don't look forward to SNIT collapsing. I want SNIT to work and work well. But the way out is not to go the
inflation package. So
I don't think so.
There should be a formula.
There should be a formula that is acceptable to both parties. But SNIT must sit up. Going forward, they must never assume that they are going to be answerable. And I'm going to meet my colleagues at the TUC Hall They are not supposed to be answerable to government.
Okay. But do you have confidence in the current leadership of TUC to push this agenda to ensure?
Oh yes, they are my friends. I have total respect for them. I believe they can do something, but we all need to support them.
Okay.
Because sometimes they say it, and I do know they have been saying it. If my friend Dr. Kobranyaku had come online, he would have told you. They have said it and over, but we all need now to push. I'm an employer. I contribute towards SNIT contribution for my workers. And therefore, I'm not going to sit down idle for them. And the workers who are listening to me now, I have told them, forget about this mushroom of allowances, get good pay through productivity, and be able to pay and look at your future. They are listening to me now. I think they'll have sleepless night tonight because what I've told them has come to pass.
Okay. All right. Let me go to Abdallah. Abdallah, so if government is defaulted in paying contribution for its workers and that SNIT might not have enough money to meet its obligations, how can the private sector contributions protect their contributions? Because we do know that these monies are coming from the private sector as well as the public sector.
It will be difficult. It will be difficult for, what do they call it, for the scheme to be sustained using contributions of the private sector alone. That would be extremely difficult. Even though in terms of, what do they call it, contributors, if you look at the proportion of contributors from the private sector against contributors in the public sector, the last time I saw it, I think it was 38% against 62%. 38 in the public sector against 62% in the private sector. So the private sector contribution is not enough to be able to sustain the scheme. So every single penny is important, especially given the precarious situation that we are finding ourselves. Let me make the point that, how do we fix this problem? There is a problem on the table. And I am giving you a sense that the problem might be deeper than we know today. Yeah. What is the main recommendation as contained in the actual valuation report by ILO? They are telling us that there is a need for us to increase the contribution rate from the current 11%. And that is where the discussion should begin. And Parliament would have to, I keep saying, making this point. Parliament would have to take hold of this current actual valuation report. They will have to ask all the questions. In fact, any reform that we are going to undertake, they will have to lead the line. It starts at their doorsteps. And that is what is happening everywhere around the world. And look, the Ghanaian situation is not peculiar to just Ghana. Across the whole world, because of changes in demography and economy, almost all countries are suffering, social security sustainability issues. But what you do when you are warned is where the emphasis should be.
Okay.
It is very normal for an actual valuation report to tell you that, look, if you don't do anything, your scheme reserve is set to deplete within this particular period. It is very normal for an actual valuation report to tell you that. What is not normal is if you do nothing. And we did nothing in 2014. We did nothing in 2017. Another one is out. We are in 2023. We have done nothing all this while. And I think it's about time Parliament begin to look at the long-term sustainability of the SNIT scheme, because it is taking care of over 200, nearly 250,000 pensioners, and a lot of contributors are connected to the program.
No, okay. Austin has a follow-up to what you just said, and so we'll give him a chance to. Yeah.
As far back as 1989, I was a council member of the Ghana Employees Association. A decision was made together with organized labor and government then, President Rawlings. We agreed that we should have a consolidation of allowances so that people's pay will be reasonably high, so that their future will be guaranteed. Okay. Working people reversed the whole thing again, even though they took the money. Today, I have been advocating, and they're all listening to me. I said, let's stop this dangerous business of we want this allowance, we want this allowance, we want this allowance. You are creating problem for yourself tomorrow. Therefore, we need to consolidate these things and be reasonable, and therefore, the pay will be reasonably high, contribution will be reasonably high, The purpose of the second tier also was to get SNIT out of paying lump sum benefit to people so that they can pay good pension, that is to say monthly allowance to people to be sustained.
Yeah.
You understand? So the lump sum is paid through the second tier and people would have benefited from it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we are not managing the schemes well. The cost in SNIT, administrative cost, like my brother said, is too high. And we must not allow governments to impose employment of staff upon SNIT today and in the future.
Okay.
It should not be allowed.
That is what. So, Abdallah, how do you react to Austin's point there?
Yeah, so basically, Mr. Austin is talking about, overloading, allowances instead of putting them on the salaries. This one has to do with adequacy. If you are looking at adequacy of pensions, yes, it will be prudent for us to, reduce what do they call it, the allowances and make them salaries. Once salaries are loaded or allowances are shifted from being allowances to basic salaries, definitely it's going to increase the contribution to the scheme. But not to the extent it's going to sustain the scheme as we expect. I don't see it really having any significant impact as far as sustainability is concerned. What is going to salvage the scheme right now is we have to commence discussion on how to increase the contribution rate from the current 11%. So,
Okay.
I mean, for me, I was surprised. Just a minute. I was surprised when I saw the Senate rejoinder, looking through from point 1 up to point whatever. I expected that at least they will make a line admitting that, yes, the scheme is facing sustainability challenges, but there is the need for us to increase the funding rate from the current 11%. They should have just put a line there. After all, that is what is contained in the actual valuation report. But if you look at the rejoinder, the nature of the rejoinder, it looks like everything is okay. We should all sit back and just do nothing. You see, let me say that the ease with which we were told that, what do they call it, pension funds will be involved in the debt exchange program, regardless, without really looking at the consequence it was going to have. The ease with which we were told is the same ease we are going to wake up one morning and we are told that, look, social security system, the reserves have depleted, we will not be able to pay benefits. At best, we are going to reduce benefits. That is what is going to happen if we don't do what is recommended right now. So I think we have gotten to a point where we just have to stop kicking the can down the road.
Okay.
There's no time.
Unfortunately,
All right.
at that time, all the people in government now will not be there.
Yeah.
The people in SNIT will not be there. Many of them will not be there. We must do it now, and tomorrow morning is the day.
Okay. So Austin believes that we have to take action immediately. So let me go to Samuel Erickson Abaka, who is the Vice Chair of the Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises Committee in Parliament. So Samuel, you've heard the discussion. To what extent can we attribute this to inadequate government oversight regarding SNIT's business operations and investments? Because a key issue here.
Thank you. The Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises has taken it upon itself as it mandated by the Constitution of Ghana and the standing orders of Parliament to ensure that we play adequate supervisory role. Just last week, we had to deal with about 20 state institutions looking at their financial fitness, whether they are operating efficiently.
Okay.
SNIT appeared before the committee last year. We went into the account, we raised some of these issues. So now there is a challenge to such institutions to ensure that they discharge their duties, not just as a Father Christmas, but they should know that they are accountable to the people of Ghana. And once you work all your lifetime on retirement, you should be able to relax and enjoy the little that's available to you. So being a parliamentary committee which I don't know whether it is NDC or MPP or PPP, what we do is make sure that at the committee level, we look at the issues as raised, the red flags are also outlined, and then we advise appropriately. We have had cause to, when we laid the reports before the floor of Parliament, the plenary, let's continue to come. But so this has been a wake-up call. The ILO issue on these actuarial values, though it is done every 3 years, but since it found space in the audited account of 2021 of SNIT, and we commented on it, we know that, I'm sure the assurance that they have actually working on it to make sure that the scheme becomes sustainable should give us that assurance.
What is the committee going to do to ensure that we are told that previous times no actions were taken? This particular one, what is the committee going to do to ensure all the changes being proposed will be able to effect them, to ensure
we've had cause to call some of the heads of these institutions to appear before the entire Parliament for questioning and recommendations. So where we see that the management is not performing very well, I mean, you would make the appropriate recommendation for their removal. If you remember, just last Tuesday, I think the president, at the SIGA meeting, made it clear that SOEs and other state interests organizations to ensure that they take their financials serious. So not only for the social aspect of it, but then for the economic part of it, because if the resources of Ghana are, over 40% are in the hands of these SOEs. So if you do not work very hard on them and allow them that luxury that they've enjoyed for some time, then we all live to regret. But I know that it is redeemable.
All right.
We have not yet, gone beyond.
We are grateful to you, Samuel. Erickson Abaka is Vice Chair at the Parliament Committee on Employment. Let me come to you for your final words, Abdallah. Now we've seen the challenges. Some proposals have been made as to where we head to in 30 seconds. What do you expect in the next few days towards solving all this problem?
Yeah, so basically, as I said, it has to begin with Parliament. I expect that Parliament is going to take hold of the actual valuation report and begin work on it. But, in Social Security Administration, transparency is very, very, very important. And when I'm talking about transparency, I'm talking about deepening consultation among the stakeholders.
All right.
What have we witnessed in the past? We have seen SNIT managing with an actual consultant. I think the last program that we had on Joy, I was very, very surprised and disappointed to learn that TUC is not aware there is an actual valuation report. The teacher unions were not aware. This is something that is very important. It shapes the future of Ghanaian workers. It is important we pay attention to actual valuation report. And I expect Parliament to take the lead.
Thank you so much. Let me give you 30 seconds also. Senyo, your final words on this and your expectation.
Well, I think that we need to immediately look at how to increase the contribution base, because I think the report states that only 16% of all workers are currently contributing. And I think our brother Moshood said that even currently the number is around 11%. So it means that we need to immediately look at how we will increase the base by bringing more workers into the scheme. Looks like a lot of workers are outside of the public sector and also the formal sector. So we need to do this and also bring more accountability to the managers of the fund.
All right.
How we would actually make sure that this is done That is where the problem is. But I think that the owners of the scheme need to rise up and make sure that they get justice for this. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me give you some 30 seconds also quickly because we've run out of time. Your final words and your expectation.
The destiny of the working people is in their hands. They have to take it into their own hands, not with the traditional violence. What we need to do is to be prudent and get the people who are managing the scheme now to be answerable to us also in many other ways. So we'll join hands. I will join hands with my colleagues at the TUC and other employers to make sure that we get the result we want.
Thank you so much, Austin Game, and thank you for watching. That will be all for The Probe. I'm Carlos Caloni. I sat in for your regular host, MFA Apal. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great evening.